stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start.
Then I'm gonna make.
Hello everyone and welcome to another
all.
meeting of the C++ Digital Signal Processing JUCE study group. And we are probably going to talk about some C++. We definitely will talk about digital signal processing, and we may even get to JUCE this time.
Yeah.
And Tail is here. Hello, Tail. It's great to
Hey,
have
Tail.
you. And we will need your help. We certainly will.
Yeah.
So, and we also expect to have Bo joining us at some point today. So, Bo, if you're out there, just hop on the call, the Skype call, and we'll bring you into the stream. Right, so, Fotis, what have you been up to?
So the past couple of weeks, I've been reading some papers on synthesis and sampling, and I have found some interesting PDF stuff from various academic papers regarding various ways of synthesis, both in wavetables and regular sine wave oscillators. And instead of showing you a bunch of boring papers, I'm going to share with you my Photoshop, and I'm going to draw what I got out of these papers and what I expect to make with my synthesizer ideas, especially the next version of my drum plugin, which hopefully I will make soon.
So before you get to that, can you tell us about these papers? Do you have perhaps the citations we can put on the show notes?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to...
we don't have to do that now. Just
okay,
something
sure.
to do later.
I'm going to do it on the study notes on the GitHub.
All right. Yeah, and you said that the papers were boring. Did you find the reading too boring?
I didn't say they were boring. I say that they would be boring for this stream.
Ah, okay. But did you like the papers?
Yes, they were very good in general. Then they helped me get some ideas.
Okay. Are you the kind of person who tends to read papers, or is this a new thing for you?
It's been a while since I did this, so I borrowed my dad's ebook reader, Kobo, and I've been enjoying it. So, because I don't like reading stuff on my computer screen, and I don't have the ink to print them out. So this ebook reader was very nice. The first time I tried that, actually.
Yeah, from my experience reading papers, there are authors who want to communicate the idea, and then there are authors who want to be perceived as very smart. And depending on the field of study, it may be more of type 1 or more of type 2. So depending on what you're reading, it can be very hard to get to the idea because they disguise the idea in jargon, in just weird ways of presenting stuff. So how did you find these papers that you are reading? Are they easy to follow, or are they like a struggle?
Fortunately, most of those I found were very easy. They did have some stuff that I didn't understand, some algorithms and some hard math stuff, but I did get the science behind them and what those algorithms were doing, because they were directly referencing stuff that I have experience with in sound design and synths in general. So even if I didn't understand those mathematical equations, at least I could understand what they were doing and what they were used for.
All right. And I see that Bo is here on the call. So hello, Bo. If you hear us, hello. Right. Okay. So tell us.
Can you hear me, Bo?
Yeah. It seems like Bo is not really on the call yet. I mean, he is participating on the call. I can see his face here on Skype, but I don't see his camera and his microphone is not on. But I think that he may be hearing us. Anyways, so can you tell us about this prototype that you have in mind, this sketch in Photoshop?
Yeah. So one method that I found in one paper, I did post a little bit about it on our Discord, has to do about the combination of samples and synthesis. So I chose blue and red colors. The blue is going to be the sample and the red is going to be the synth. So let's assume that we have, I want to draw a straight line. So this is a waveform of a drum hit, like a kick, right? A boom. And this is a synth that we have created to closely resemble this sample. So maybe the sample is a real kick and the synth is modeled to sound like a kick drum, right? And the way that these two are related to each other, let's say that this, it's been a while since maybe this is the way this tablet works. Okay, I have
but
it on my lap.
But I have a question that is, I guess, more of an overview question.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the purpose of layering sounds, because each sound will have a different contribution to the end goal. So if you're doing a kick, a sound may have a click, and another sound may be the beef, the thump. But what is the point of combining synthesis and sampling? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each, and why would you want to layer a synthesizer with a sampler? Great
question, and I will answer it right away.
Okay.
So this is going to be the sample, only the start. And one paper said that if the beginning will be the sample, the impact, but then it's going to crossfade into a synth that sounds like it. And the advantage is that the sound is not going to be always the same, and that will add a little layer of realism. So I was watching a tutorial on Surge XT, one of the best freeware open source synths, and let's say that this is a sine wave on an oscillator, right? So when you're pressing a note on your MIDI keyboard, you start here, then you leave the key, and then you press it again, and it starts from here because the oscillator is flowing freely and it never sounds the same, unless there is an option on Surge that it's called reset. So every time you press the key, it begins from the zero crossing, from the beginning of the sine. Now, as for the drum, why I want to do it this way, it's because I want to combine the best of both worlds, because it is very hard to create physical modeling synths, and even in that manner, it's never going to be 100% realistic, because the samples do come with their own specifics, like the reverberation of the room, or the material, or even the exciter, like the drumstick or the drum brush or the mallet, the tool you use to hit the drum. It's going to sound different. And even if you manage to fake that with the synth, there are also a million other factors that come into play. So instead of actually using the synth to just imitate the sound of the instrument, we can use it to augment, to improve on the sample, because the sample itself is also comes with its own set of disadvantages, like the machine gun effect that you usually solve with creating round robins by recording many different samples and then randomizing the sampler. So every time you hit the MIDI note, you hear a different sample with the same velocity. But even that can get tiring. And also it comes, it also forces the developer to record round robins for each sample, and that forces you to have many gigabytes of samples. So if you're using a synthesis to augment the samples, you can create infinite round robins out of just a few samples. And I have seen a couple of companies that do this already, such as Sample Son, but they have a very few instruments currently. Most of them are electric pianos or something like that. Oh, a Bo is on the chat.
Yes.
And also IK Multimedia is, I think, the first company that has done this in a drum kit. They have this amazing software called Modo Drum. And I don't know how they do it. Obviously, they're not going to tell me. It's their company's secret. And I'm not going to try to reverse engineer it. That would be illegal. But this is how I would do it. The way I'm thinking of implementing it on a drum. So let's say that this is a snare drum, right? And this is a drumstick that you're hitting it. Boom. So this boom is going to be a sample, the impact, the beginning. But the next is going to be synthesized, crossfading from, the paper said, because it's an old paper, I think it was published in 96. They couldn't do it back then, but they could only crossfade between the sample and the synth. But now that the technology has evolved and both Surge XT and Vital have a new kind of technology that's called wavetable morphing, I have found that we can use this to our advantage. And what wavetable morphing is that it can actually change, it can warp this waveform. So it will be slightly different each time. It's going to make some curves. And I could harness this power in order to increase realism. So when you hit the snare, it is going to begin with a sample, but then it's going to be modified slightly by this wavetable algorithm. Because if you think about it, a simple wavetable synthesis is not really different from a sampler. All you are doing is playing back a sample, you know? There is an old VST called Yamaha XG, and also the old emulation of the Roland Sound Canvas. And both of these are labeled as wavetable synthesizers. But if you play the same note again and again, it's going to be like a sampler, because I tried layering the samples and then doing a null test. I phase canceled the samples and they were identical. So it was like a sampler.
Yeah, in fact, Dale is here on the chat saying that I think that the Roland MT32, I don't know that device, but the Roland MT32 also uses samples for the attack and then synthesis for the decay. So
that's interesting. I gotta look that up, because there is an open source emulation of the MT32 called MUNT, MUNT. So I should check that out. Just be careful, for those of you who are going to use MUNT, that MT32 was a device that was invented before the general MIDI standard was implemented. So the numbers of the programs, you know, the way that the instruments are labeled is different from the 128 set that was in Yamaha XG and Roland Sound Canvas. But yeah, what Tail said was very interesting, and I have to check that out because it's going to help me shape this theory. Now, the last thing I have to say about this is that when you hit the snare, I said about the wavetable morphing. One thing that we have to take into account is the vibration of the snare, and also the way that the resulting sound is reverberating in the room. And
is this something that you would like to capture with the synthesizer, or would you just rely on the sample to capture that?
I am going to. I do have some. I can ask my friend Bill, who is making the drum samples, to create impulse responses of his drum room, so I could replicate that. But also, there is a convolution reverb called Paragon ST. I don't have it. It's very expensive, but I read that what it does is it takes impulse responses and resynthesizes them in a way. So you don't have artifacts when you're stretching them. And it kind of works like a convolution reverb that's turned into an algorithmic reverb. So that is a nice technology to keep an eye on. And one final thing I wanted to say about this before I wrap this up and go to my JUCE problems is that the other kinds of drums, like the bass drum or the snare or the toms, are going to be similar in this. But what about the cymbals? This is a kind of different monster, because again, I don't know how Modo Drum does it, but it really impressed me. It's one of the most realistic cymbals I've heard. So my guess is that when you're hitting the MIDI note with your virtual drumstick, it does sound incredibly different every time you hit it, like in a very musical way. That you can't. I think it is very complicated to do it with just samples. You have to ask the drummer to hit it many times, and I think that's what Superior Drummer or BFD or Slate drums are doing. But Modo Drum, I think it's doing something similar to what Sample Zone is doing to create infinite round robins with just a few samples and the sophisticated resynthesis. So when you're hitting the cymbal, it's going up and down, and maybe the drummer himself is not going to hit the cymbal in the same exact spot, right? Their hand is going to hit it in a slightly different area each time. So what we have to take into account is not only the sample of the cymbal, but also the force that we put in the cymbal, and not just in a velocity manner, but because the cymbal is bouncing, and if the drummer is hitting it very fast, it's not going to be in the original state. It's going to be bouncing at the same time as the drummer is hitting it. So maybe the way to do this would be like a pitch LFO of some sort. We did implement some of that in the first version of the plugin, but it was very silly. All I did was just implement the pitch LFO that comes with Maze, and it sounds very terrible. So we did it just for fun. But if we do what we did here with the reset, the LFO is going to reset just like the sample every time we hit it. But there is going to be a very slight modulation in the sample itself, like a very slight pitch shift in the sample itself, which then is going to be morphed and not crossfaded into the synthesizer, which then is going to do its own ebb and flow. So this is my theory. So what do you think about this before we move on? Do you have any other suggestions?
I have a couple questions, not necessarily suggestions, but I don't really understand the difference in quality of morphing versus crossfading. I understand the difference in technology, but I don't understand the effect that that will have in terms of the quality of the sound.
Yeah, it's because morphing is a much more flexible way of utilizing a wavetable, because if all you're doing is crossfading from a sample to a wavetable synth, or even a physical model synth that's just an oscillator, you have to then modulate it somehow. You have to add an LFO or something like that. And I don't know if this is going to affect the timbre in the long run. But if you're wavetable morphing, you can retain, I believe, some of the original sounds timbre. So you can only modulate the way it affects the virtual room without spoiling the timbre. Because that's what the pitch LFO did in my previous plugin, and it sounded terrible, like I said.
Yeah, I suppose that simply pitch shifting will give the chipmunk effect to the sample.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bo is here. He has written on the chat and also on the Skype chat. So hello,
Hi,
Bo.
guys.
Oh, hello. You are on the call now. How's it going?
I had. I'm doing okay. I had some audio issues, same as last time. I had an instrument plugged into my preamp.
You sound great.
Which mutes the microphone channel.
Oh.
Yeah, I have the same situation here, so I use the other channel. My interface has two channels, and then I leave one channel available because I will forget to unplug stuff.
Yeah, I should start doing that as well. How are you guys doing?
Very good.
Good.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
You said that you were doing worse from a health standpoint.
Yeah, particularly 2 days ago, it was really quite bad. So I'm doing okay now. So.
Oh, okay.
Is it getting better over time, or is it like the same it was last year?
Not last year, because about this time last year, I was in intensive care at the hospital. So with instrumentation hooked up to me. But it's been like this for the past like 6 or 7 months, more or less.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's the thing. Yeah, that's a sort of post-COVID thing. You're not getting better. You're not progressing. That's the thing.
And you're also not getting worse?
Not particularly worse, but it comes and goes like in 3 day stints, 3 to 4 day stints. So I have like 3 good days and then 3 bad days.
Oh.
And the bad days are sometimes worse. So like I said, like 2 days ago, there was a really bad one.
And that is like a cold or something, like the effects of COVID coming back.
Yeah, so it's like you have the flu, the flu that won't subside, you know. It just keeps lingering.
Oh, man. I have a mild case of that because I have a child in the house and he goes to the playground and comes back with a cold. So we have a cold almost every week. I can only imagine what it must feel like to have even worse symptoms coming back. It's the worst. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, the psychological toll is starting to show now. So not getting better. It's where it wears on your psyche.
Yeah.
So, let's talk audio and DSP.
Yeah. So I have another question for Fotis. You mentioned on the Discord chat, people who are not there should go there. We have a Discord server, and the link is on the description below. You can go to my website and find the invitation there. Anyways, so Fotis was talking about how to use FFTs to sync the sample with the synthesizer, and I'm not really sure I understand how that works. Can you explain this?
Yeah, let's draw this again. So I'm going to do it differently this time. So this is the sample again.
Yeah.
And this is the synth. And I'm going to draw the same thing. I didn't understand it fully because it has the algorithm on it. But what I got is that this place is the phase alignment. So if they have to overlap with each other perfectly. So because if they are doing this, if they are not, if they are aligned, sorry, if their phases are not aligned, you may have cancellation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that raises another question, because if they should be canceling each other in this manner, right? I just realized that.
How so? These waveforms are not canceling out; they're adding up.
Oh, they're adding up. Okay, sorry. Okay, that answers my question.
Yeah, they are in phase, so they will just increase in amplitude as you drew them.
Okay.
But what's not clear to me is how do you use the FFT? I guess you would start by taking the FFT of the blue and red waveforms, but then what do you do with the result?
Can I look at the paper again? The one I posted on the Discord, the text.
Okay.
I'm almost sure I got this. So the wavetable matching has the phases set to 0 or arbitrary values. So we can extract a period of the original sound sample and perform a band-limited DFT. I think that's the clue right here. It doesn't say just a DFT. It says a band-limited DFT. So maybe they are using a specific set of frequencies, right? So they are doing a humming function. I've seen that humming function before. Isn't that like a name, like the Blackman-Harris algorithm?
Yeah. They are all different windows, and this is just because an FFT needs a block of samples to work with. It doesn't work with one sample, it works with a block of samples. And internally, the FFT treats that block of samples as if it was a loop. So as if it extended infinitely to both sides. And there are all sorts of issues that arise from that. So the solution that in some algorithms you would, it's not always the case that you want to do this, but depending on what you're doing, what you want is to take this windowing function. It is just, you can think of this as just crossfading, or not really crossfading, just fading in and out. That's what I'm trying to say. Instead of just taking a block of samples, you take the block of samples, but you fade in and fade out. And that's your windowing function, and different shapes of fade in and fade out will have different properties. But because it's fading in and out, even if the thing loops forever, extending the block to both sides, at least on the places where they meet, so on the beginning and end, they will meet in a place that makes sense. Typically silence. So typically the fade in is from silence, and the fade out is to silence, so that there is no discontinuity in that loop. And that's what the windowing function does, but I'm not really sure I understand the band-limited part of the DFT. I don't know what a band-limited DFT would be. Do you band-limit the signal using some kind of band pass filter and then do the DFT, or do you do the DFT? I don't really understand that.
I can post the PDF so we can check it out some other time. But what I want to say, because I'm sorry I can't answer your question, but what you just said about the windows, have you seen the new time stretcher that was recently implemented in Reaper? It's called RIA.
Yeah.
And it functions in a similar way to pole stretch and pole X stretch. And it even has 4 kinds of synthesis. It has 4 kinds of windows. It has the triangular, rectangular, Blackman-Harris, and the humming one. And each one uses a different kind of window to collect samples and loop them and it smears them in order to create this infinite reverb. And that's what you do to create super slow sounds. And if you can actually play with this, if you reduce the window, then it becomes chopped up like a delay. So you can actually hear the windows before they can get blurred and reverbed.
Yeah, and for people who are interested, the implementation of RIA is open source. So you can go check it out.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is on the Ask Justin Frankel website. And there's a question there about how RIA works, and Justin just published the code.
Oh, cool.
Excellent. I'm going to check that.
Fotis, does this have anything to do with the Hilbert transform, like checking the phases in signals?
That rings a bell, Hilbert transform. Great question. I have to answer that later.
Yeah, sure.
On the Discord. But yeah, I think I saw it in one of the papers. I'm not entirely sure. I read a bunch of stuff and smeared it in my head, so my brain works like a RIA right now. But yeah. So I'm
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, thanks. So now I'm going to turn off Photoshop and go back to JUCE. And you guys are going to help me.
Yeah, I guess for that, you do need to change the screen sharing on Skype, because now we only see Photoshop. You probably want to share the desktop.
Yeah, I'm going to share my entire desktop. And boom, now you should be able to see everything.
Yes, we see.
So this is JUCE. That other thing was AVS repo. Are you familiar with AviSynth?
No.
Or Vapor Synth? This is a video editing bunch of effects. I'm gonna tell you about this. It's an interesting set of open source tools. So I'm unplugging the tablet. Now let's go here. I'm going to first share with you guys the repo that I'm trying to build, and I have failed like 3 times, and it's driving me nuts. So this thing is called SynthLab. Make sure you use the master, because when you visit this link, it doesn't take you to the master, it takes you to an older branch. So I'm going to link to this directly and send it to you guys on Skype. I'm also posting this on the Leandro Facchinetti Discord. So we have it twice. Anyway, so what this thing is a reactor clone. And it is a modular interface that is running in JUCE. And it's very interesting because I really need this thing. And it's going to be not just like the other modular stuff that I have shown in previous meetings, like Bespoke or Cardinal, but this is running directly in JUCE, and it is intended to be a standalone application. It will be provided as a plugin in the future, but I actually need this in order to help me model the synths that I want to create as plugins. So I believe this is going to be a great bridge for me between producer and actually writing the code for a synth. So because I have Flowstone and I have the schematics for various synths by Kevin Brown, and it works in a similar manner, but Flowstone is not really my thing. And you can only create Windows compatible VSTs with that. But with JUCE, you can create cross-platform plugins. So maybe if I could replicate the schematics from Flowstone into SynthLab and then use JUCE to create open source cross-platform synths, that would be great, right? Because that's going to be like a bridge. Instead of writing the code from scratch, I can create first the modules here and then edit them in Visual Studio. in code form.
So
right?
I'm not sure I understand. This SynthLab platform is a place where you prototype, a place where you use visual programming, it seems. So you drag boxes and you make your algorithm that way, but then you can export that as VST using JUCE?
I don't know if you can, but I want to do it.
Okay.
I'm sure it will be possible because it is only, it is a juicer file. It is just a project. So technically it should be possible, right?
Well, I think that you are able to use this juicer file to compile SynthLab itself, but not necessarily to export a patch as a VST, right?
Yeah, that's going to be an issue. But I want to use it just to prototype my stuff.
And how is it different from the ones that we talked about in the previous meeting? So how is SynthLab different from Cardinal and even VCV Rack for that matter? And we also talked about that other one, I forget the name.
But Bespoke.
Yeah.
The first thing is that it's the most relevant to the study group since it runs in JUCE.
Okay.
But secondly, like the creator says, it can function like a reactor clone. So because it is running in JUCE, I can actually implement, hopefully, other stuff that people have created directly into Visual Studio or Producer, like other oscillators that people have created. And I want to be able to import them in SynthLab. It's going to be much easier because if you're going to implement, for example, an oscillator in Cardinal, you have to create it from scratch in C++ and then export it as a Cardinal rack. Same with Bespoke. But here, you can create the oscillators directly in here, or you can inject the code from Visual Studio into SynthLab. At least that's what I'm planning to do.
Okay, I'm interested in learning how that goes because I don't really understand how the pieces are going to be put together.
So I'm going to show you I had some help from Nathan Hood, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but he said that he's going to join us in the next meeting, hopefully. So he told me that I should leave this blank because it's not meant to be created as a VST yet, but still I had an issue. So I'm going to show you my steps. I loaded the juicer file. That's what you get when you load the synthlab.juicer file. And I picked Visual Studio. And I went from here, and this all looks okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly empty or using defaults, so it should be okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you the errors that are happening. Hold on, I'm going to delete the build. So I can, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, it's going to load the Visual Studio. Hopefully it's going to overwrite the same files so I can replicate the errors. So like Nathan told me, hold on, drink some water. So Nathan told me that all you have to do is click on the build button, which is what I did in the first place.
It's never that simple. It's supposed to be that simple, but it's never that simple.
Unfortunately, yeah. The guy says this. Where is it? It's a JUCE project, so simply go to juice.com, download the framework, then start the producer and open the project file in order to generate your platform configuration.
And that much is true.
And that's what,
that was successful.
That's what we did, yeah. So let's wait, and I'm going to turn off Chrome. So I have some RAM available. And the crazy thing is that this laptop only had 4 GB of RAM, and I extended it. I added 4 more gigabytes. Otherwise, it would be going crazy right now. So this is my SynthLab thing. We have the references, external dependencies, the JUCE code, the modules. And shall we try to build this?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So first, we're going to see that it's creating some OBJ files, the objects. These are going to be the files that it's going to create again. We have the DSR. If the build was successful, then the .exe file should be available here, but obviously it's not. And we're going to find out why, hopefully. Okay. So we're getting some warnings here, lots of warnings, and the build, I think the build comes with 24 errors and like 1,000 warnings. So
yeah, can you stop, perhaps just scroll up just a little bit so that the scrolling, the auto-scrolling stops, and then we can look at some of these warnings to see if we should care about them or not. And
we're going to get to watch them, to read them all after the build fails. Okay. But yeah, let's see this one. Some of these, most of these are saying that a thing X was declared deprecated.
Oh, okay. That's okay, because I saw on GitHub that this project is at least 4 years old. And that's expected, right? Some things change on the framework, they become deprecated. As long as they're still supported, it's fine. Yeah, 24 errors,
the project
652 warnings.
Yeah, this commit was made on this year, March 25th of 2022.
Yeah, it's just, I'm just saying that.
But it's also, yeah,
it's not the case that the commit will change all the files in the code base to update and fix all the warnings, right? So some things may be deprecated and it's fine. Warnings are okay. Declaration of blah, 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 hides class member, that is potentially more troublesome.
Okay, so I'm now disabling
let's trust that the code that you're
Let's
trying to compile is okay. Let's see if probably the problem is in the environment, the compiler, the linker, and so forth.
So now I disabled the warnings. Then I made them invisible so you can only see the errors. And I'm going to scroll through them slowly. We have browser for file save.
Yeah,
run
one
model.
thing that stands out to me is all the warnings we are getting. Well, many, I'm not going to say all, many warnings we were getting were about deprecations, and the errors are also things like a certain member is not available in the class, right? And that indicates to me that perhaps this project was meant to be used with older versions of JUCE. Perhaps JUCE updates introduced backwards incompatible changes. Perhaps some classes were moved around, or class decorations changed so that now member functions are not there, that sort of thing. So perhaps we should be using an older version of JUCE. I don't know which version of JUCE. Is there any kind of documentation about that?
Unfortunately, no. It's rather sparse.
Okay.
And the thing is that I shouldn't have updated JUCE in the first place.
You can have multiple installations at once. I think.
It's portable. Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, so
I just have to find the correct version.
Yeah, I will do the following. It's kind of an investigation because you're saying that the documentation is sparse. So one thing that I would try is try to look at the bulk of the commits. When was the project really active?
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps you'll see that most commits happened in 2020, and then there was a gap. And then there is this commits from a couple months ago. So then you can see the release history of JUCE, see the version that they were probably using, and try to download that version to see if that works.
Okay, I'll try one more question. Will the the IDE be a problem as well? Should I download an earlier Visual Studio or something?
That's going to go along with the version of Juice, I think, because one of the things that at least Producer is going to do is to keep updating with the latest versions of the IDE, with the latest versions of Visual Studio, right? So perhaps you will need to use Juice version 5, and perhaps Juice version 5 doesn't support your version of Visual Studio, then you would have to downgrade Visual Studio as well, which gets annoying. I realize that, but I don't know. I would just start with Juice because that's relatively straightforward. I don't know how to download another version of Juice, but it's probably possible.
Yeah, I think I think it is. Yeah, I will find an archive.
Yeah, and at least, Juice is on GitHub, and I am pretty sure that they are doing releases and using tags. So you'll probably be able to get older versions from GitHub if they don't have a proper download page for that. I have never needed that, so I don't know. And I do know that older versions of Producer work a little bit differently. They have buttons in different places, but the main happy path of opening the Juicer file, creating the Visual Studio project, compiling, that thing should be the same. Perhaps that will work. It's just a guess, but yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And one final thing I wanted to show before I pass the torch to you and Bo. What was the name? So I found this thing. There it is. I was looking on plugins on KVR because I'm always trying to find the next big thing to find or buy. And I found this little thing called Tritonet, which works like a musical circle of fifths that you can use with Ableton Live and with Push. So maybe C JUCE will be interested in this. But you know that since I am one of those guys that has too many plugins, I always need that extra push. No pun intended. That extra way to buy it. And so I scrolled down and ta-da! So if Aria says it's good, I'm gonna buy it. Thanks, Aria.
That's great.
So yeah, that's my stuff. I'm going to turn off share screen.
Okay. And as for my update, I will be really quick. I continued working my way through that book, the Tour of C++ book. I have not finished. I didn't even start implementing anything on the Auto Mixer. That's my update. I am reading. Things are going well. I am working a lot on my waveform display, but that's JSFX, so it's a different story.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So let's go to Bo, because you have more interesting stuff for us.
Yeah, hopefully. It's interesting. So the plan is, since I'm still getting my grasp around C++, the plan here is that you guide me through producing this filter, Leandro.
Okay, we'll try that. And you'll also need help from people on the chat, like Dale, and Fotis can also help out. So, yeah.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. So I sent you a very rough schematic, not schematic, but what it's going to contain.
Yeah, okay.
The Fudge filter.
Yeah, so the idea is that it's a regular filter that sort of shaves off, that takes like a percentage of the new sample and adds it to a variable, then the next sample, a percentage of the next sample and adds it to the variable. But what you do is that you keep, you take the difference between that's in memory one sample back, and then you add that, and then you add a percentage of that to the first variable, and you can also use two. And I've tried this with one sort of in memory in JSFX, and resulting curve looked a lot like a tape, a good sort of tape EQ, or what the resulting EQ curve of a tape would look like. So that's why I called it a tape EQ. But it's a sort of smoothing with a tail added to it, or two tails added to it.
Can we see that?
Oh, I should have prepped better for this.
You have a JSFX implementation of this, you just said, right?
I tried this since I sort of the idea. This is a really old idea that I'm doing with other stuff, with statistics. And I tried it this was way back that I tried this. Is this it? Can you see my screen though? No.
No. Can you start the screen share on Skype?
Yeah, because what I'm doing right now is just searching for stuff, so I don't think it's. Skype. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see your screen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, it works.
Spectrum. Let's see if it's this one. Spectrum analyzer, side spectrum analyzer, JS. And I'm gonna need white noise for this. White noise generator. Okay.
Are you going to use white noise to see the shape of the filter?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Do you have the Burton EQ analyzer? I really like that one.
Yeah, Burton EQ analyzer, it's awesome.
Curve analyzer.
If you have it, then...
Yeah, that's the thing with my latest update. I haven't cleaned up my hard drive yet, but that's the latest update. It killed like 80% of my plugins.
Oh.
So we're stuck with.
Yeah, if you have it, you have it. Then if you don't, then white noise is the tried and true method.
White noise. So this one, I guess. Why am I not seeing any? I haven't used the spectrum analyzer. Is it the spectrum analyzer or the white noise thingy? Respectrum. It's the white noise, I guess.
Or you can even use a RIA synth to generate a sine wave.
There is a JSFX that does a sine sweep.
Yeah.
Oscillator or something, isn't it?
I think it's sine sweep generator.
Mm-hmm.
Sine sweep.
You seem to be interacting with a window that we don't see. The screen share is only sharing the main Reaper window, not any floating windows on top of that.
Okay, so I need to change the fördragsvärdet till samma läge. Where do I share? What in the?
Are you only sharing Reaper?
Yeah, that's the
thing.
Be
sharing the whole desktop.
I didn't know that. Sorry.
I did the same mistake earlier.
Here's the wonderful thing with Skype.
Yeah, exactly.
Rutornas vid föredragshållare
Okay, for everyone watching, we'll figure this out and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Oh.
And here we are. We figured it out. Here is the whole window. And we can see a sine wave sweeping across the spectrum.
Let's see. So I try to do it on the master channel and that won't work. So are we online again?
Yeah.
Excellent. And here's Justin's excellent spectrum analyzer. Fudge. I think it's this one. Cut off.
Oh.
So, and then you add the fudge to that. So this is the sort of memory bit. This is the regular IRR filter, EMA, and this is the addition. So that adds, and then you sort of get the curve back, but this is slight slant to it.
Oh, nice.
Which is very sort of tape-like.
Yeah.
So that's the principle.
It looks very Air Windowsy. That's a compliment.
Good.
We are all students of Chris, you know.
Oh yes.
His presence is always felt. He's like Obi-Wan. we always talk about him, but he's never here. He's like the Force, you know.
We should have him on the stream.
We definitely should. Yeah.
You've talked to him as well, Fotis. You've had
a lot of times, but these days he's extremely busy. He is moving stuff from. I think he's moving to different house. I don't know, but we should have him sometime.
He's an extremely knowledgeable dude. So he's done a lot of DSP work over a long period of time. So
and he's the reason how you and I met.
Yeah,
in his live streams.
That might be so.
So I have a question about this the spectrum. When you're moving the filter, isn't going out of phase, which is why we're seeing two different, the orange curve and the blue curve, blue waveform.
I'm pretty sure I'm only processing one channel, hence.
Oh, okay. It's the left channel and right channel. So you're processing the left channel and the right channel is
intact? The right channel is a sort of check.
Okay.
For what the regular noise
nice
profile will be.
Get it.
So should we start with JUCE?
First of all, I want to understand what is a tape-like filter, because I'm not really sure I understand that.
Now the tape reference is I did check some different tape equalizer. It's not like technically an equalizer, but you throw white noise into a tape and then sort of check what's coming out of it. There's going to be a specific curve that has a specific profile, and depending on the tape type and the technology, where there's cassette or quarter inch or wet speed, and et cetera, it's going to have a specific sort of curve to it. And this is a bit tape-like in that it slants off a bit in the mids and then picks up again.
Interesting. All right, it's like a shelf.
A bit, yeah.
Okay.
Have you checked out the source code from the Chol tape model?
I tried, and that's where this me checking tape EQ or sort of tape spectrum profiles started. When I was checking JUCE tape emulation, and I came across a couple of different. There's a bunch of them. If you sort of image Google what a tape transfer curve would be, there's a bunch of them. So
okay, because you know that tape emulation is all the rage nowadays.
Oh yeah,
everybody's doing their own thing.
Oh yes,
and because we have all those lo-fi hip hop mixes, it's the new trend. You know, I was telling that to my friend the other day. In 2012. It was all dubstep and wobs. In 2015, it was 808s and trap, and now it's all make everything sound like your grandma's cassette tape player.
Yeah, it's supposed to sound like it recorded on a 1980s Porta studio.
Oh, nice! I've seen some awesome experiments done with an actual Porta studio. So
yeah. They've supposedly gone up in price like crazy, old Porta studios. I used to use them. I didn't like them. I mean, they were fun for the time, but I'm so glad I'm rid of them. So, anyways,
okay.
But there's also that with tape. It's magnetic particles that is being excited by a magnetic field in the tape head. So there's going to be a level of inertia in it. There's going to be sort of the tape head wants the particle to move in a specific way on the tape medium, and it's going to sort of slowly start moving, and then it's going to be just like I'm trying to do with this tail. There's going to be sort of an inertia in it, and I think that's what is happening with this. This is sort of the tail adds an inertia, and it sort of filters out this fastest transients.
Can you explain something else?
Catches up. Sorry?
No, you can finish, and then I'll ask another question about the tape emulation.
How so?
Have you heard of the term hysteresis?
Hysteresis, yeah, sure.
Hysteresis, sorry. Yeah, it's a Greek word, but I don't know how to pronounce it in English.
That's okay.
Hystero, it means make things a bit later. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're delaying things.
Yeah.
And the child tape model has many different algorithms of hysteresis, like the Ratner Kunta. What's the name? I think that's the names of the guys. So what is each different hysteresis algorithm doing to the sound? Is it simply making it sound later, or does it do something else?
As far as I understand, hysteresis is you can have hysteresis in a transformer, and a tape head is also a kind of a transformer. But you get with a transformer, you charge the core, so you get a sort of there's a level of inertia in it. It's sort of it slows down, and then the speed picks up again. So depending on the level of the transient and how fast the transient is, there's going to be sort of a teeny tiny compression, and it's very sort of slew rate dependent and amplitude dependent on how that inertia or sort of hysteresis behaves. And then again, it's different from playhead to playhead, from transformer to transformer. Some transformers are worse, and also again, it's going to be different across the frequency band as well. And add to that there's a level of sort of hysteresis in the tape as well. So hence, that's probably why he's using a bunch of different algorithms. Is in his base primarily is in his base primarily on cassette tapes? No? Yes? No? I think
so.
Okay, cool. It's
speaking of transformers, Corey's created a plugin called Coils, which emulates the transformers. Remember that?
Oh yeah. I haven't tried it that much though, and I haven't looked at the code, but I remember the coils one. Yeah.
And something interesting that I found on both creases to tape 6 and also on the amazing plugin I bought from Baby Audio that's called Tape, the one that's using machine learning. Both of those have a similar function. If you do the dry-wet knob just somewhere in the middle, you're hearing a phasing flanging effect because the tape emulation is slightly delaying the signal. So if you're blending it with the dry signal, you get this sort of phase out thing.
Yeah, it should be flanging. Yeah.
I want to say something about the hysteresis that we were talking about. I also don't know how to pronounce that. But I do know something about the Chow tape plugin. And that is... So yeah, check this out. This is the manual for Chow tape, and it seems like these are not different models of hysteresis. The model is the same. The different options that you see on the interface over here, you see all these different options. There are different ways to solve the equation. So a model of what happens on the tape is this equation. And then there are different ways to go about computing the equation for a given signal coming in. And the different solvers, so we are talking about different ways of solving the same model, the same equation. But the different solvers for the equation will have different trade-offs. Some will be computationally cheaper, so you'll be able to run more of these plugins with other plugins on your DAW. Some will be more accurate. Some will have... Well, it explains here the kinds of effects you would have. Like some will distort in different ways. But these are different ways of solving the same equation. They're not different models. In fact, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up, you can use these same solvers for other kinds of equations. So perhaps you're not modeling tape and hysteresis at all. You're modeling a compressor. You're modeling a distortion pedal. And then you come up with an equation. And then you can use some of these same techniques to solve the equation for this other model that has nothing to do with tape. So yeah, these options are about solvers, not about equations, not about models. Does that make sense? Does the difference come across? Okay.
To me, at least, I don't know if anyone else follow, but this is sort of a general equation, and there's different ways of implementing it. So
yeah. In particular, I think that when it comes to modeling stuff like this, it usually boils down to you get a bunch of differential equations. So you end up with a bunch of equations that describe how the system, how the audio is going to change given its previous state and the input that came in. And then, so that's a differential equation. And to solve differential equations, there are these different algorithms, like the Runge-Kutta and Newton-Hobson and so on. So it's often the case that you would try to model something that is analog, and you will come up with a differential equation, and then use these solvers to solve the differential equations.
All right. One more question about the filter that you're making. You showed in the picture that it is an IIR in infinite. What is the I forgot
impulse response.
Infinite impulse response. Sorry, I didn't realize. Anyway, the thing is that this is going to be a tape emulation. Are you doing this as a non-linear filter?
By definition, any processing you do is non-linear. But my tape reference is that that's the reference that I sort of can find. It looks a bit like a tape transfer curve. A tape would also cut the bass a bit and boom some of the upper bass of lower mids, but
the head bump.
Yeah, exactly. But the sort of the mids up to the treble looks a bit similar, and I'm guessing that it would sound a bit tapish with the inertia sort of hysteresis thingy.
But your goal is not necessarily to emulate tape; it's just to have something interesting, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. And my goal in a lot of things is to sort of have a smooth top end,
nice.
And generally smoothing. And this came about when I was doing some statistics experiments. I have a sort of general interest in smoothing overall, hence me babbling about the Hull equation, etc. You remember that?
Oh wait, the Hull, as in HULL.
Yes.
Yes.
Is it the same thing that Chris did in his own filter?
Yeah. As per my recommendation, actually.
Oh yeah, that was yours. Yeah. That was a crazy filter, and it's crazy on CPU, but I like it. It has a nice resonance that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, he did it slightly different. He didn't use the IRA filter. He used the sort of weighted moving average, and that produces a lot comb filtering.
Yeah, noticed that. And he also used. Did you also recommend the Holt filter?
The Holt, yeah, that one as well.
That was crazy because
resonancing.
She created the low pass filter out of an Excel.
Yeah, so that's used for sort of statistical smoothing. The Holt and the Hull as well.
It was used for stock markets, and he turned that into a synthy soft. Low pass filter.
Yep. And I have a version of the Hull. My version of the Hull filter, it doesn't look that different when you sort of run it white noise through it, but in my head it does sound a bit different. It sounds a bit fluffier and smoother. So whenever I'm doing sort of low passing, I use my Hull.
Oh, is it less stressful on the CPU?
Yeah, mine's fine. Mine's fine.
Oh,
I have no issues.
Could you please pass it to me?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
You could share it with us. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'll make a note of that. It's not on my webpage, actually.
I have downloaded all the things from your website.
Oh, cool. I'm making a note here. So should get started with JUCE or?
Yeah, I think that before we dive into JUCE, it would pay off to read the code that you wrote. I know that you showed it already, but I just want to make sure that we understand what we'll need from JUCE to implement this. So for one thing, we'll need a couple sliders. Then we need, taking the square root, that's straightforward, then some arithmetic, getting a hold of samples, multiplying, adding, subtracting, writing samples, and then there are two variables that need to persist. They are sort of state, right? The LL1 and LL0. And also L0 and L1. Yeah, so I guess we need 4 variables that are persistent, so that the next time the sample block comes around, the old value of L0 is going to influence the new value of L0.
Yeah.
And the same for L1 and LL0 and LL1.
Yes, because this one has one sort of memory, one thing in memory. And the plan for this one would be to have 2 in memory.
Okay.
If you catch my...
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess translating this conceptually, not necessarily in terms of syntax, but just conceptually, what we'll need is a couple of sliders, but I think we can leave them for later. Let's try to get some of the audio processing going.
Sure.
Then we need to be able to get a hold of samples and to write samples. That's the bread and butter. And we also need state. So I guess we'll need 4 perhaps member variables to be, so perhaps L0, L1, LL0, LL1 will become 4 member variables on the audio processor. So yeah, this should be relatively straightforward. Let's get to JUCE.
Awesome. Can you see my JUCE now?
Yes.
Just make sure. Excellent.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a plugin. So hence I need to start a new project. This is what I've done wrong in the past.
There are like 4 projects open on your screen. So if none of them are the plugin that we are working on, then...
No, this is my learning stuff.
Okay, so new project.
So I'm gonna be using this one, I guess, basic plugin.
Yeah.
And project name Fudge 0.1.
Don't put the version number there.
All right.
Yeah, there is another place for the version number. You want the project name to be the thing that shows up on the plugin list.
Excellent. And what boxes should be ticked?
Well, I don't think you need anything special in terms of modules. The defaults will do. Then, and we can always change these things later, okay? We can always change this if necessary.
Sure.
And yeah, in terms of exporters, we are doing Xcode this time. So yeah, go ahead and save the project.
Just as a bit of teeny tiny bit of bragging. This is the practicing I've been doing in JUCE.
Awesome.
And I've learned basically nothing.
Great. Also, I think this marks a landmark in this stream, because it's the first time we are actually porting a JSFX into JUCE and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Good point.
And this is actually much more useful, right? This is something that many people do. They prototype something in either JUCE or in SynthLab or some kind of software, and then make a plugin out of the prototype.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anything I need to do before I start Xcode?
No, you can go ahead and click on the little icon to start Xcode.
Be right back.
Sure.
And let's see, first of all, if just this compiles and works in general.
Do I need to... Okay.
Yeah, it seems you clicked on the little play button that is the build button, and the build is happening. So you can just wait a little bit. One thing that I often do is, you can see on the right-hand side of the little play button that it says Fudge all my Mac. So these are the build targets or schemes. And by default, Producer is going to create a project that generates VST3, audio unit, and a standalone app. So it would be like fudge.app on your applications folder. I find that when I'm developing things, I don't need all these targets. So I either go with VST3 or most of the time VST3. But if you want to test things out in Logic, you would pick audio units, of course. And I don't really do standalone plugins. I don't find them very useful. So one thing you can do is change from all to just click on VST3 or audio unit. And what that will do is it will change the target so it doesn't produce all the modes. It doesn't produce audio units and standalone apps. And this may speed up the build process. I think it does speed things up. But another nice consequence of this, at least in my experiments, is that it will put the VST3 in the right folder and Reaper will be able to pick it up. And if you build all using that all scheme, it doesn't work that way. I don't really know why. It's just what it is.
Scan for new. Let's see if I can find it here.
I don't think you will find it, because I think that because you use the all compilation scheme,
Okay.
I think that it didn't put the VST3 where it should. Now,
All right,
just
so
try
I should
clicking on...
recompile it.
Yeah, now that you have the right scheme, try clicking on the play button again, and I think it will put the plugin in the right place. And of course, the build will be instantaneous, because everything is already built. It's just putting things in different places.
Scan for new plugins.
Or you can go to Reaper and add the folder.
Add folder?
No,
Yeah, in the preferences.
Yeah, I guess you can do that.
It checks with VSTs. Yeah.
This is a new concept. What? I beg your pardon?
If you go to Reaper's preferences, you can check out in the VST section. You can select which folders it scans plugins from. Not that one. It's a different menu.
Reaper preferences or
yeah, no. That's the correct menu. I'm talking about the sub menu. If you scroll down,
BST.
Yeah, that's there. The one. Yeah, so you can the button to the right, the edit list.
Edit path list.
That's one. Yeah, you can add the path you want.
But this should be working fine as is, no?
Yeah.
You can add the path that the producer, the Xcode is exporting the VST at.
Aha! I thought this was going to be looking for the plugins VST3 Fudge.
That file will, I don't think that file will be there.
Okay.
And the reason is to put files in that place, you need administrator privileges, right?
Oh, yeah. That
you
makes
need to,
sense.
anytime you install a VST, you need to type in your password. And that's because it's a system folder. You don't want anyone touching that without your permission. So when we build the plugin in Xcode right now, it should have put the plugin in the same place. It's library, audio, plugins, but it's under your home directory. So instead of just going to /library, go to your home directory /library.
What's home directory in Swedish or in?
Oh, I can help you with that.
Google Translate.
No, you can just say Command Shift and G. You can just type Command Shift and G. That will open that. Yeah, and then it is tilde and then /library in I guess in
bibliothèque.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like bibliothèque, and then /audio /plugins /VST3, and we should see a file there.
Audio /plugins audio.
That's how we call it in Greek too, bibliothèque.
Bibliothèque.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because biblio means book.
Yeah, plugins has a dash in the folder name. It's plug-ins.
Plug-ins.
Dash.
So. Yeah, that's one.
All right.
There it is.
Yeah. So Xcode put this file there. And Reaper is supposed to go there and find files. In fact, you can see that this is not the first JUCE project you compiled. There was also the test plugin that is there. You can see that there. It was probably in your study, right? That you put this file there. And it seems like perhaps Reaper is not finding this because we didn't see the Fudge plugin in Reaper. It was supposed to be there.
Reboot Reaper?
You can try turning Reaper off and back on, but perhaps it may be because Reaper doesn't know the folder names in your language. So perhaps we will need to go into that menu that Fotis mentioned and give the path to the folder in
And the
your language.
preferences. Yeah. Good morning, good morning, good morning, computer. Fudge.
There you go. At least the audio unit is there
Oh, yeah.
from the first compilation.
Okay.
But
See
the
if it's
VST is still not
working.
there,
It's
which
broken.
is surprising to me. Oh, and it failed to load? That is...
Yeah.
Oh.
That's not okay. So
No.
go to Edit Path List and add path.
By the way, Reaper has a function when a plugin fails to load, you click on the button on the left and it shows you a list of the plugins that fail to load and it attempts to rescan them.
Okay, but this is this system version. I shouldn't have updated.
Yeah, so go again to Command, Shift, and G. That shortcut also works on a file finder, and there it is. So just go there and this time it didn't work.
Didn't work. What the? That was.
But the file, the folder exists. We've been there. We know where it is.
But it's not. This is not the path, though.
Yeah. So can you go back to Finder where you had that folder open?
Yes. So.
All of this
users.
The place where we saw the VST3 file in Finder.
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
No, that's a Reaper project. We saw the VST3 file.
Sorry, my bad.
My God, all of this looks so alien to me. I've been a Windows guy
yeah,
all my
right.
life.
So we can drag and drop this folder into the File Explorer or the File Finder in Reaper.
Or you can even copy paste the path to the list and add the semicolon.
Say what?
Yeah, can you drag this folder and drop it in Reaper?
In Reaper, in the project?
No. On the little file finder that is in front, this window that we are interacting with. Drag and drop there. There you go. So that's now the folder that we want to open. Click on Open. There you go. So now we should see that path on the list of plugin paths, right?
It didn't work.
That's weird. I don't know. Just apply the changes and let's hope for the best.
Yeah.
And scan the plugins again.
If it didn't, you can copy the path as it is and paste it on the list.
Or perhaps macOS is doing something funny to the localization, right? It could be displaying in Finder the word in a different language, but the file system actually has the old the English name.
Why isn't? Where's rescan?
You have to go to the Add Effects.
Add.
Oh yeah.
There.
Oh God. This is so confusing. Now, this might actually be a language issue, because this seems familiar. This issue.
Can't you just move the VST3 file to a different folder? Does it have dependencies? Does it need to be there?
Well, so yeah, that's another thing we can try. We have that file there. We can drag and drop it into the system folder. It's annoying to have to do this every time, but we can try it this time, and if it works, then we can figure something better out. So yeah, go to your audio plugins VST3 and drag and drop Fudge in there and type in your administrator password.
I didn't need to. Let's
go figure.
Scan.
No.
Nah.
I don't know. Reaper is misbehaving, and I have that happen to me with Ableton. I don't know why, and I don't really care that much because there are other hosts we can use. We can even use the host that comes with JUCE. So JUCE has a project that is a VST host and audio unit host. It's a plugin host. And you can use that to test things out.
Yeah,
It
the
isn't for
problem with
everything,
Ableton,
but
yeah.
it's okay.
The problem with Ableton is that it doesn't natively support multiple folders. Multiple folder paths for plugins, but at least on Windows there is a workaround. You can actually create shortcuts of folders and place them in another folder, and then route Ableton to that. So it
I don't have
loads all
an
the paths.
Ableton though, so.
Okay, so just so you know, it is a worker. It's an annoying workaround, but it works.
Okay.
Okay.
Every DW comes with its own set of shortcomings.
Yeah.
And
also, I don't know how much this last sort of system update actually effed up my computer. There's so many things that have gone wrong with it, and I really need to clean out.
Yeah, it's good to do that from time to time. Okay, but let's not get too bogged down with the Reaper issue, because the plugin is building. We are able to get it. It's just the Reaper is not picking it up for whatever reason. But never mind that, because I guess we will revert to the standalone app. We built the standalone app, so the standalone app should work. It doesn't depend on any host.
How do we test it, though?
No, we didn't look at the standalone app yet. So we built that in the first build. So go on the left pane, there is a little products folder. It's the last folder on the list of files. And expand that, and the fudge.app thing, try to open that. Not this one, the one above.
The one above.
App, all right. Just double clicking?
Perhaps, I don't know, I have never done it.
Showing Finder?
Yeah, showing Finder and double click that should work. All right, so this is your plugin. It's not in any host. It's not a plugin, really, but it is your plugin. So this is good enough for us to try. And then we can route some audio through this to test things out.
Sure.
Yeah, so let's try to write the implementation of the JSFX, right?
Yes.
And we first need to visit the plugin processor.h, because remember, some variables L0, L1, LL0, LL1, they are going to be member variables because they need to be remembered the next time we go around. So you can, and I think that they can be private. So scroll down, at the end there will be a private section starting on line 56. And you can declare variables, member variables, with a new line, a type, probably float, and a name like L0. And then rinse and repeat.
L in this case was left. That's what I call it, L. Should it be like fudge or variable or sample or?
I propose that we go about this with like a translation approach, where we just try to translate what you had in the JSFX, because if we try to conflate the steps of translating and refactoring, things will go wrong.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so put a semicolon there and do that 4 times for L0, L1, LL0, LL1.
And a new float every time.
Yes, the lines are exactly the same, just change the variable name.
Float L2. 4 variables.
And they were called L0, L1, LL0, LL1, not L2 and L3.
That was for left. No, that was not for the left and right channel. Let's see. Yeah, so LL1 is the LL0, sorry, is the memory one. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just keep the variable names, right?
So, but that would be 1, 2, 3. If hang on a bit. L1. So in JSFX, I use 0 and 1 as in SPL0, SPL1. So L0 as L1. And LL would be the memory one. Now we're calling them L0, L1, L2. So should we this one should be L1 should be LL, I guess. No, L2 should be.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. We will need these 4 variables. So let's name them exactly the same as we saw in the JSFX.
Yeah, and the added one, so this one is added. This is the change from the JSFX one.
No. On line 59, instead of LL, write LL0. And on line 60, instead of LL, write LL1. The point here being, we are doing a translation. And you may reason that, oh, okay, I will want to change these variable names because they mean different things, or I did this and that was a bit of a hack in JSFX and I want to clean that up. That's perfect, but let's just try to get something that works first. So that's why I'm saying, let's keep the variable names, let's keep the logic, let's keep everything. Let's just translate JSFX to C++ to see how that goes.
Yeah, okay.
And then we can focus on issues like Reaper is not picking up the plugin. I don't know how to find the right folder where this will be compiled, this sort of thing that is like JUCE related.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. So now we have these 4 variables, and in JSFX, all the variables start existing as soon as you use them, and they start with a value of 0. In C++, that is supposed to be the case, but I got into some weird issues, and I learned that it's always best to reset everything. So let's go to the plugin processor.cpp and to a member function called prepare to play, and that's the plugin editor. We should go to the plugin processor.cpp.
So find prepare
that
to play,
one. Yeah. So in this one, this is a member function that will be called when the playback is about to start. So perhaps your play had moved somewhere and you hit play, that function will be called. And this is the place where we can initialize variables, because I don't really know how initialization works in C++. I don't know what we get for free and what we don't, so we better be explicit and avoid mistakes. So in there, we will write L0 equals 0, L1 equals 0, L2, LL0 equals 0, LL1 equals 0, and semicolons at the end of every line.
L1 equals 0. Yes.
There you go. And now let's find the, I think it's called process block. It's another member function. It's probably going to be below where we are and on the same file. That one.
There you go.
So this is the.
Are we? Is my screen live? I'm watching the stream on my television, and it's just an image of Fotis and you, Leandro.
This is live. I mean, your screen is on the stream, and everything seems to be good here on YouTube. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why you don't see the same that I see.
That's weird, though.
Hey, Tail is in the chat.
Oh,
In the Skype chat.
Tail is in the chat, and he was the person who helped me figure this initialization issue I had in my code. And he's saying, for your information, in C++, class instances, that is objects, are initialized. Plain old data is not. So if instead of a float L0, we had some sort of like my object or my class, then it would initialize. It would call the initializer for that, call the constructor for that class and make up an object. But plain old data like floats and I guess pointers and integers and so forth, those you have to initialize by hand. Okay, good to know. Thanks for letting us know. And this time I learned from you, Tail. This time I did it right. And Tail is also confirming that he can see the code. So it's...
Oh, good. It's because now I got a different screen on my television. It's probably lagging behind like 5 minutes.
Perhaps.
So that's why.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, so this process block function, it's a member function of the Fudge audio processor class. This function is called with every block of samples. So depending on your buffer size, if your buffer size is 256, this function is called with a buffer of 256 input samples per channel and 256 samples that we need to produce. So we need to output these samples. And then there is this block that starts on line 137 down to 144. We don't really need that. That was just to clear some buffers because this boilerplate plugin is not really doing anything. It's just passing audio through. So we can remove these two lines, the for loop and the line after that. So we can remove down to line 144.
137 to 144.
Yeah, we can remove all that.
All right.
And then comes the block of code that is actually going to process audio, finally. So you can think of this for loop as the sample block, the sample section of JSFX, okay? So this for loop, the body of the for loop, starting on line 139 down to line 141, that is where we are going to have our sample section, okay? So coming back to your JSFX, I think that we are missing a couple constants, perhaps. Yeah, we're missing the weight. So for now, let's just have a fixed weight, and that is probably a float variable. So let's just hard code this for now, and then later we'll have a slider for this. And we also need a fudge. So let's have these two variables, a weight and a fudge. We can declare this right here in this loop. It doesn't really matter because we are going to change that into a slider later. We just want to have the variables there. So declare a variable called fudge, declare a variable called weight, and assign values that you think would make sense.
Does it need an integer, a verb, or...
It will need perhaps an auto, but I think we better be explicit and say float.
So fudge equals 0.1, usually good. And then float weight equals... Oh, this is so dependent on... Oh, let's do this.
Okay.
There's a bunch of errors. Should I pay?
No, they're not errors. They're warnings. We are not using all the variables. For instance, we just declared fudge and weight, and we are not using them. So that's fine.
Okay.
Then on line 141, we are getting a pointer that allows us to write into a channel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't explain something right. I explained it wrong. I said that the block of code that we are working on is similar to the sample section of the JSFX, but that's wrong. I misread line 137. that's not looping over samples. It's looping over channels.
All right.
So what we want is to have some sort of loop that will loop over samples.
Was that the one that I deleted? The other for loop? No?
I don't think so.
I could sort of do Command Z and check.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I will look at some JUCE tutorials because I don't remember the code off the top of my head, the code that we need to write.
In no, it's about input channels.
Okay.
So, can you see that though?
Yeah, that's okay to delete because that's looping over the number of channels as well. So it's the same loop as the one that we have.
All right.
Right, so at this point, we need to loop over, we have this block, let's say 256 samples, and we need to loop over all of them and process them one at a time. This is what we get for free in JSFX. It's the sample section, right? You can think of this process block function that starts in line 131 as the block section in JSFX. Now we need to get down to the sample section, and that's what I don't remember off the top of my head. So
sure.
Now I'm
no worries.
I am
I'm completely
Googling around,
lost, so
trying to find it. And
maybe Tail knows.
Maybe, but probably not because he's not using JUCE. He uses his own fork of iPlug. In any case, what you can do on your side to try things out is on line 142, put your cursor there and write channel data dot. And then Xcode is going to help you autocomplete channel data with a capital D and a single word, just like in line 141, okay? So that the variable name channel data and then the dot, and then it should help you autocomplete. So backspace and type the dot again. Oh, man.
Nada. Did I miss type channel data? No.
Yeah, I don't think you did. Can you try like...
I did actually see and someone else when I was watching the live stream. Someone coded in JUCE and he backspaced a lot to get the sort of to kickstart JUCE channel and get rid of weird errors.
Yeah, perhaps not a dot, but an arrow, the dash and greater than sign, because we see that that is a pointer, so maybe that will help. By dereferencing the pointer, we'll get something, and it doesn't seem like it. So perhaps get right pointer is giving us just an array.
Dale just said something in the chat. Not a dot, but question mark.
No, not dot, but arrow. So he had the same idea I had.
Sorry.
Yeah, the question mark was really just a question. Yeah, so perhaps the get right pointer function is returning a raw array to us. We have different ways of checking that, but perhaps the easiest one is to hit Control Command and then click on get right pointer. That will jump into the documentation, or really into the header. Yeah, so Bo, what you need to do is you can close this context menu you just opened by clicking anywhere, and then hold Control and Command and click on the get right pointer on line 141. You have to click on that. Yeah, on that word. Click there. Okay, so now we see that the return of this function is a pointer to type. That's not super helpful because that's a template, I think. But that's probably just a pointer to... It's probably just an array, essentially. A pointer to a block of memory. And that's not going to help. And I'm Googling and I'm only finding helper functions on the buffer thing. That's annoying. I think I have a clue. So we are going to write a loop over the number of samples. I think I got this. Erase everything you have on line 142 And let's start a for loop. So for, open parens, int, and then perhaps just sample index would be a good name. And you have to say int. You have to, before sample index, you have to say int for integer.
Yeah.
And that can start with 0. So you say int sample index equals 0. And then semicolon. And then we want the sample index. So write sample index less than. And this will be the magic bit. Buffer, that's the buffer that we received as argument in line 131, dot get num samples.
Get num samples, there you go.
Yeah, so that function is supposed to return the number of samples in the buffer. And I think we got this now. And then semicolon after that, and sample index plus plus. So we get to the next one. So it's pretty similar to the loop loop setup in line 137, but in 137 we were looping over channels. Now we are looping over the samples in one channel. And you don't need the semicolon after the plus plus.
Why is plus plus before channel? Isn't it channel plus plus? No?
Oh, it doesn't matter in this context. It doesn't matter in this context. So either one is going to work. In other contexts, there is a clever little difference between the plus plus before or after a variable. If you are using this in a context where you're computing with sample index and also incrementing it on the same expression, so you do a similar trick in the JSFX implementation where you have L1 plus equals inside an expression. Can you open that code for us? The JSFX code?
Sure.
So you know how on the line that starts with SPL0 equals, you have L0 plus equals. So, and then on the right-hand side, you have L0 again. So on this line, you are reading L0, the old value of L0, then updating as L0, all in one line. So you're reading and updating, right? That's what you're doing. You're reading and updating.
Yeah.
If you put the plus, if in this context, instead of plus equals, you had somewhere in the expression L0 plus plus or plus plus L0, that changes the meaning. So L0 plus plus means use the old L0, then update it, add 1 to it. If you have plus plus L0, it means update L0, then read it. So it's just the order of operations. It's either read, then update, or update, then read. But in this case, we are not in a context in our C++ code. We are not in a context where we want to read and update. We are just updating. The sample index in that position. In other positions, we may be reading it, but in that expression, in that position where the cursor is, we're just updating, we are not reading. So it doesn't matter if the plus plus comes before or after. I tend to use plus plus after. It seems like the JUCE people prefer before. It does not matter.
Okay.
Anyways, let's, after this line, let's put an open brace, close brace, just so we don't forget about it.
Is that the curly brackets? No?
Yeah.
So that should... No, hang on. Why did you do that? So 2 or...
Yeah, exactly what you have. Perfect.
Good.
This is just so we don't forget about this. And then let's put a new line there and then write the expression. So perhaps can you have the JSFX and the Xcode window side by side, because we will need to refer to the two. Or if you cannot do that, just copy and paste this code on the Xcode window, because we will need to refer to this and change it ever so slightly. Yeah, right. This is great. So we will write a line that is similar to this. Now make sure that on line 143, you have open brace, close brace. You want to put your cursor in the middle and do a new line there, because we want to write in this loop, not after it. Great. And what we want is to do something that we want to translate to C++ what line 149 is doing. And that is, it starts with SPL0. So SPL0 is the left channel, right?
Yep.
And I think that what you want to do is perhaps to do this for all channels, but we'll start with just the left channel, okay? Mm-hmm. So we have right now the channel data, and that's for the current channel. So yeah, let's use channel data. So you can say channel data and then square bracket and then sample index and then close bracket. So you opened and closed the square brackets. I want you to go back there and remove the close square bracket, and also, no, just leave the open square bracket, but don't close it. Perfect. Then go to the end of the line, remove the parentheses that you added, and close the square bracket. So what we are saying is channel data is, I think, an array, a chunk of memory with like 256 samples, and we want to get the sample at that index on, and that's our SPL0, right? SPL0 is this magic variable that is the current sample. Now channel data at sample index is the current sample. Great. Now the rest of the line will look pretty similar. Perhaps you can even copy and paste the rest of line 149. The only difference, of course, is that anywhere where we see SPL0, there is only one occurrence, but in that place, you need to replace SPL0 with channel data at sample index. But we'll get to that in a moment. Begin by going to line 149, copying everything to the right of the first equal sign and pasting there on line 145.
That was simple.
And then remove the semicolon right after the first close bracket and put an equal sign there. And then where it reads SPL0, replace that with channel data at sample index. Same story as what we did before.
Channel data, and then the close brackets, right?
Yeah, then open bracket, square bracket, sample index, close bracket.
Sample index, close brackets.
Now, by, I guess, luck, the rest of the line works. So the rest of the line is valid C++ syntax. So it just works. It's even the same semantics. It means the same. This just works. Hopefully, we'll see. So now let's go to the next line, 150. And that line is also valid C++, so you can just copy and paste. And then there are two more lines on the JSFX implementation, right?
Yeah, that's the other channel.
Oh, so it's just a copy, right? So let's not worry about that because our implementation is already using channel data, which is multi-channel. So there you go. That should do it. Now, there is a warning on line 145. Can you perhaps, I don't know if you click on that, we'll see. Okay, unsequenced modification and access to L0. Oh, good to know. Thank you, C++ and Xcode. In JSFX, as far as I can tell, operations happen from left to right. So if you have 1 plus 2 plus 3, it will do 1 plus 2 first, the result plus 3. It seems that in C++, that sequence may not be specified. So it may do 2 plus 3 first and then plus 1. The result will be the same, right? The operation is associative, so it doesn't matter which operation you do first, the one on the left or the one on the right. And it seems like the C++ compiler reserves the right of reordering, perhaps to make the fastest implementation it can, to make the fastest program it can. So what that means is that the modification to L0 that we are doing in the middle of this expression, because we are doing plus equals L0, this modification may be happening first, or it may be happening after the right-hand side of the plus, which is L0 minus LL0 times fudge. So this is what this warning is about. It doesn't really say if the L0 will be updated first or if it will be read first. Now, this is probably not consequential to this algorithm. It probably doesn't matter. So let's just try this as it is. If we see that that's a problem, and we will test this in a minute and we'll be able to see if this is a problem, then we can come back here and fix this by separating these expressions into their own lines. And then C++ will know, oh, okay, you wanted me to do this line first and then this one. And then it will be fine. The warning will go away.
The PEMDAS thing where it wants to do calculations in a specific order.
I didn't hear that. Can you say that again, please?
PEMDAS. So you parentheses, exponentials, multiplication, divisions, adding, subtracting. So it wants to do the mathematics in a specific order, and it doesn't like this order. Is that what it?
Yeah, it's not even that, and I don't think I explained very well the first time, so I'm going to try this again.
Sure.
When you see something like a bunch of things plus a bunch of things, because that's what we have, right? We have L plus equals channel data sample index minus L0 times weight, all of that, because of the parentheses, that's all of that, plus all of the things on the right of that plus sign. So L0 minus LL0 times fudge. It's the whole thing on the left plus the whole thing on the right. And I was thinking about associativity, but it's not even that. It's not associativity. The issue is different. C++ does not have a strict order of which of the operands it's going to evaluate first. It needs to do some work to get the operand on the left. It will need to do a subtraction, a multiplication, an update to do the operand on the left of the plus sign. And then it will need to do some work to get the operand on the right-hand side of the plus sign. But, and I guess in JSFX, I haven't tested, but I'm pretty confident that it does it from left to right. So we know for a fact that L0 will be updated first, the thing on the left will happen first, then the thing on the right. In many languages, that's the case. In many languages, it goes from left to right because it's the most intuitive thing for you to reason about.
Exactly.
But in C++, it seems like that is not specified. And it could, if it wanted, run the right-hand side first and then the left-hand side. But that will affect the result because we are updating L0 on the left and we are reading L0 on the right. So if it runs left to right, it will update and read. If it goes from right to left, it will read that update. So it will read the old value.
Yeah.
And we want it to read the new value.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's saying that it's an unsequenced modification and access. The modification is the plus equals, the access is the L0 on the right. And unsequenced in the sense that C++ does not give you any guarantee. It may reorder the operations in order to make things as fast as it can. So I think that it should be okay. We can run this code. It's just a warning. Worst case scenario, it won't work.
Yeah.
But how do we fix this, by the way? Can you imagine how we would fix this?
Oh, Leandro, you're grossly overestimating my capabilities.
It's not that hard. You just create a line before line 144. Let's not do this right now because I want to see what will happen. Sure. I want to see if this will work. But what we can do is before line 144, we create a variable, let's say float a, or not even that. We don't need to create a variable actually because L0 is already a variable. So what we could do is just on the line above, we could cut and paste this whole L0 plus equals channel data, blah, 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 up to weight. So we could just cut that from there. And paste on the line above. This way we are saying, I want this operation to run at this point. I don't want you to reorder this. This is the operation that happens first. Then put a semicolon there at the end of this line, and you can remove the parentheses around the whole line. The parentheses are not doing anything anymore. Then on the next line, you can just say L0 in that position where you cut the whole expression. You can just say L0. Oh, you got the wrong parentheses.
I did.
The first parenthesis on the line, you can remove.
Oh, the first one. All right. Let's see. Does that work? Yes, it does work in JUCE. And then we got to this point.
And I think that the parentheses are still unbalanced. Am I reading wrong? 1, 2, then 2, 3. Yeah, there is one extra parenthesis at the end of the line that we can remove.
Isn't it supposed to warn me about that, though?
Yeah, there was a red line there. All right, so on line 145, right before the plus sign, you can say L0. And the meaning is still the same, right? We are still updating L0 with the same formula and then using that to compute the rest. And I think you removed an equal sign at some point. On line 145, right after channel data, there was an equal sign and then L0.
On line 144?
On line 145.
Yeah.
After the equal sign, that's where you put the L0. Don't remove the equal sign.
Ah, okay. All right.
And don't remove the equal sign either. Don't remove anything.
I didn't.
You did. You removed the plus sign that was there. Command Z and you see there. That equal sign right there.
Equals
don't remove anything.
L0 plus.
Yeah, exactly. So the order of operations is still the same. Oh, and you command Z too much and the parenthesis is back on line 144. So go there and remove it again. But the order of operations is still the same. You are updating L0 and then you are doing the computation on the right. And then you are adding everything and you're storing that in channel data. But now there are no warnings because you said to C++ which side of the plus you wanted to happen first. Great. Now, it would be entertaining to see what the old version was doing, because I think it was going left to right. But anyway, click on the play sign, and we should... Oh, before you click on the play sign, change the scheme to... So click on Fudge-VST3, change that to standalone plugin, because Reaper is not picking the plugin up. So we'll do a standalone version. And then click on the play sign, the play button, and it should compile and it should run the code. Or you can start the app and try it out.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. So where was the app again?
It was in that folder.
Oh, it boots on it all on its own. No? Where did it go?
Oh, yeah, okay. Before we do that, Tail caught a mistake. Tail caught a mistake. Let's fix the mistake that Tail found.
Sure.
We are updating the L variables, L0 and LL0 and blah, blah, blah. We are updating that for every channel because we are in the a for loop, right? So we are updating that for every channel. So let's do the thing that... Let me think. Yeah, let's do the thing that we were doing JSFX. So remove lines 137 and 138.
138 as well?
Yes.
With this curly bracket?
Yes.
All right.
And remove 151. That's the corresponding bracket. And then where it reads, now the mistake that is in line 139, instead of channel, say 0 there. Because then we are saying, okay, just one channel 0. And we will not be running for every channel. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah, so now we are just doing exactly the same we were doing in JSFX. We're just processing the left channel.
All right.
Yeah, Tail, thanks for catching that mistake. So yeah, now we are updating L0 and LL0 just for the one channel, the channel 0.
Okay.
Okay, so now compile again. Let's open the app and try it out. At least it's compiling.
That's a good thing.
And it started by itself, see? That's
Yep.
the fun thing of using the specific scheme instead of using the all scheme. It does something extra. It puts the VST in the right folder. It opens the app for you. That's kind of nice. So do you have some sort of setup you can do to test this? Do you have some instrument that you want to play or some internal routing of audio in macOS so that we can actually hear something?
We could try my voice, I guess.
Yeah, you can use your voice, so that's what I thought.
Okay.
So how would I route this through my voice through this options? Audio media sensor.
Is there something like a ASIO or a black hole? Do you have a driver like that? I think that's what it's called on Mac. Or Soundflower.
Good point.
It should also be able to just see your audio interface. And Tail is telling me something interesting here on the chat. Yeah, and he is right. The right channel is just undefined. We didn't do anything to the right channel. And it should probably be fine, Tail is saying. And I think so too. And that's why I told Bo to do it this way. I think that if you don't do anything to a channel, JUCE is just going to forward that channel the same way that JSFX does. I really hope that JUCE does this. There is a slight chance that JUCE will not do that, and there is a slight chance that there is junk in that place, so we will hear a lot of screaming noises on the right ear. So there is that chance. So let the volume be very low when we start running audio through this, okay?
Yeah.
On my mic or...
On your headphones, and if you're sending that audio to us, on that send as well. But yeah. It's always a good idea to not run loud noises because your plugin may have a bug. So don't let your gain be too high.
What should I be? Oh, there's definitely a difference between left and right.
Take it off my right ear.
Yeah. It sounds a bit resonancy. Yeah.
So do you hear anything on your right ear that you should not be hearing?
Not that I'm thinking. It sounded my left.
You would know. On your left, the plugin is processing. On your right, the plugin is not doing anything.
Yeah.
On the right, either you are hearing yourself just fine, or you are hearing the demons screaming at you, and it seemed like you're not hearing that. So
no, it's processed in the left ear, definitely.
Okay.
Nice.
And in the right ear, you hear just dry signal.
Yeah, the right is so much louder than the left, so it's hard to tell.
Okay, so Tail was telling me here on the chat there will be junk, but I think that I am right and that JUCE is protecting us from that. I know for a fact, and that's a block of code that we actually removed. I told Bo to remove that block. I know for a fact that if the VST is configured such that there are 2 inputs and 4 outputs, for instance, then JUCE will not clean channels 3 and 4 for you. So if you don't do anything to that, you will get noises in channels 3 and 4. And that's the block of code that we removed, the block of code that would clean buffers for channels 3 and 4 in that context. But I think that in this case, we have stereo in, stereo out, and I think that if you don't touch a sample, it passes through. It's bypass. And I think that's what's happening. I haven't really tested this, but it seems to be backed by evidence because Bo just tried and he didn't go deaf on the right ear. So it seems like JUCE is doing the right thing for us and just forwarding the same way that JSFX does. But yeah, okay, so that's that. And it seems like you were able to get some signal out and it is different. So you are processing the signal, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's it. We translated JSFX to C++. Hooray.
Oh, by the way, yeah. Well done, Bo. You could
well done, Leandro.
You could showcase how this works. Maybe you can tell Reaper to record your desktop audio, and then you could play back the result with us. You could say something in your microphone and record it in Reaper.
That's not. So. Let's do this some other time.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be time consuming. Okay.
Yeah. So. I guess for homework for you, Bo.
Yeah.
Do the right channel. Use the same approach you used in JSFX. Just copy and paste. In particular, you will want to copy and paste lines 142 down to 144. You want to copy these 3 lines and change from channel data to perhaps channel data right. You probably need to channel datas, right? Right now you have in line 139 channel data for channel 0. You probably want to have another line just like 139. So you probably want to duplicate 139 too. Duplicate 139 and say channel data right equals buffer get right pointer 1. And then in the copies of lines 144 down to 146, you will access LL0 or L1 and LL1 and channel data right. So you just have a copy of the whole logic, and you should be able to process both channels. And for extra credit, you can try to have sliders. So instead of hard-coded values on lines 137 and 138, you can follow the tutorials from the audio programmer or the tutorials on the JUCE website and learn how to do sliders. Maybe you already went over those tutorials. Just learn how to do sliders. You don't have to do custom user interfaces, custom look and feel, none of that. Just declare sliders and have them work.
So I get the logic of what you're saying, but channel data right, there's no channel data left.
Well, channel data is channel data left, so you may want to rename that variable.
Oh.
Let's do that right now so you don't get confused. Go to line 139, channel data, right-click on channel data.
So I put in a couple of returns here, so it's 144, right?
No, go to line 139, current line 139. Right-click on channel data and go to refactor, rename. And change the name to something that will make sense to you. So channel 0.
So this is our variable. This is not a JUCE variable.
This is our variable. When you say like a type, in this case auto star, and a name, you are declaring a variable. It's yours. You can give this any name you want. In fact, do give any name you want right now so that you will know that this is the channel for the left.
Channel left.
Yeah, there you go. So
and
now you know.
I just press rename right here. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is a new trick in Xcode, I guess.
Yeah, any IDE will give you that. So Fotis is using Visual Studio. Probably right-click is the way to get that too. Probably there is some keyboard shortcut to get there faster, but any IDE should be able to rename a variable like this. And it's different from just renaming as usual by clicking and dragging and renaming, because it will be smart enough to rename all occurrences of the variable, so you don't have to do that by hand. So there you have it. Now that's your channel left. You want to copy this line to get channel right. Of course, you changed from 0 to 1. Then copy the 3 lines you commented, change from L0 to L1, change from channel left to channel right, and you should be processing both channels.
Did I get this right? I need to make another a channel right for this one as well, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. You want to copy line 140. Yeah. Make a copy of this line.
Right channel.
Yeah. And then the sliders for fudge and weight, you should be able to follow the tutorials and get sliders. But that said, I have not done myself. I haven't done that myself, so I don't know how that will go. But give it a try. Try to do the sliders.
Cool. And by next time, I should have cleaned out my hard drive and get my plugins working, because that would help a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much, Bo and Fotis and Tail.
Thank you, Leandro.
Ivan. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name, but Ivan was on the chat before.
Oh, Ivan. Hey, that was a friend of mine. Yeah, I invited him.
All right.
All right.
And thank you everyone
like
else who is not around in the chat, but is watching. And say your last goodbyes, Fotis.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I would like to say my homework for the next meeting, if it's okay. I just took a look at the GitHub of SynthLab like you suggested, and I saw that the next to last commit was a migration to JUCE 6. So I downloaded JUCE 6.0, and I'm going to try that instead of the latest one. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to cry on the Discord. And also I'm...
Pay attention to the fact that there is a commit saying update to JUCE 6. That doesn't guarantee that the migration was over. They may have stopped in the middle, right? So another thing you can try, if that works, great. If that does not work, perhaps go there to that commit, or that's the commit you already have, I don't know, and try JUCE 5, because perhaps they were in the middle of the updating and they stopped. You never know.
Okay, I'll try that. And also I'm going to, once you post the notes for this session, I'm going to cite the PDFs from the papers on synthesis that you said. I'm going to add the links to the GitHub. Okay. And also I'm going to study the schematics from the Flowstone synths that I have, so I can figure out how they work and how could I implement them on SynthLab or anywhere else, or just in general.
All right.
So that's it. Time for my goodbye.
Yeah. And as for me, I'll just finish reading and continue doing the things that I said I would, like finish reading the book, try to apply some of the ideas in my auto mixer. Nothing surprising. And Bo has plenty of homework already. So, yeah. Last goodbyes, Bo?
Now I'm fiddling around with my original Fudge thing in JSFX, and I thought I made like a different left and right versions for it, as a left and right channel version, but they're identical, but they're behaving differently.
One thing that I see is you have on the line that starts SPL1 equals blah, blah, blah. That line is referring to SPL0, to sample 0. So perhaps you should be mentioning sample 1 there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So I can I can send you guys this one in the Discord. Can I send files in Discord?
You should be able to.
And the HAL one, please.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And I posted on the chat the recipe for fudge muffins, so we should learn how to make those. in JSFX.
The recipe for fudge.
Fudge muffins.
Fudge muffins.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Because fudge is this really basic, simple kind of cake.
Yeah.
Glazing something, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Nice.
It's milk, sugar, some milk, sugar, flour, and butter, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah.
And I have some interesting stuff to show you, so I'll see you on the Discord. I'm gonna tag you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll continue the hull experimentation on the Discord. That will be excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Leandro, for your help.
Yeah, thank you too for all the coding. I love doing live coding, and we tend not to do that too much here on the meetings. But yeah, speaking of live coding, I will be back on Monday. You know, we streamed for long. It was nice. I will take the rest of the week off. So I see you all on Monday for more JSFX. I will be back to my waveform display thingy. And you all enjoy the rest of your weeks. And thanks for joining me on the meeting.
You too.
It is always a lot of fun having you all here.
I enjoy it too. I love it.
Me too.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.